Hello, internet friends. Chris Masto here. This is the 2023 lab tour. A few things have changed since the last one 2 years ago, so I wanted to do an updated one. If you find these things kind of self-centered and uninteresting, then go ahead and skip it. I kind of like watching them, so I figured other people might like watching mine. Plus, I want to have the record for my own use to see how this place evolves over time. But I'll get right into it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on going through every single piece of equipment here. I made that mistake last time and the thing turned out to be 15 minutes long, and I'm going to aim for a lot shorter. Here's the basic space. Let's start over here with the so-called bar area. I took out the mirrors that were behind the bar and I put in a TV instead. And that turns out to be really useful for watching TV, but also having a screen that I can use for playing games or doing computery stuff. Right now it's hooked up to my Nabu. We'll give you a sneak peek behind the bar here where I keep the mess. Try not to have a mess out in this place, but if it's hidden behind something, all bets are off. So tangled wires here. The purpose of all this is so that I can have a whole bunch of stuff that's hooked up to these two screens here. I got that one over there and the TV. So I can display whatever I want. So the centerpiece of that is the Matrix HDMI switch. Recently added this Nabu. Like I said, that's the 1984 retro computer from Canada. And it needed a place to live, so I've kind of wired it in behind the bar where it can stay out of sight when I'm not using it. So let's just cut the lights there. Also under here is a gaming PC to run the VR stuff, and also just to have a computer that I can use at the bar. Over here we have the Glowforge laser cutter with materials storage below it, and the replica IMSI 8080 above it. Over here below the replica PDP-8, we have a workstation that can also function as a monitor, so I can hook up my work laptop to that and use it as a second screen. It's also useful to use as a second screen for other things. For example, if I reach behind there, switch it over to monitor mode, that's connected up to the microscope so I can see, or if I'm working on a project with somebody else, they can see what I'm seeing under the microscope. Before we get to that, the X-Carve CNC mill is over here. I'm going to be replacing this with a Carvera when I get it, so I can do more accurate PCB milling, and hopefully it'll fit in this space. We will see. So over here is the electronics area. Got a bunch of test gear and stuff there. And this is also currently where the replica Altair 8800 and the replica PDP-11 live. I think someday they're going to be pushed off this shelf and I'll have to find a new place for them. I'm not going to go through all the equipment here, but I found that this collection of stuff more than suffices for my simplistic needs. Adjacent to the electronics bench here is what I guess I could call streaming PC. It's useful to have a computer here to look up circuit diagrams when you're doing stuff with electronics, but this is also the one that I've set up for OBS to be able to record and stream stuff. I'm using one of these Intel NUCs from when they thought it was cool to put a skull on the computer, and that little box there mounted to the wall is capable of doing the whole streaming setup, which includes a camera here for looking at me, camera here for looking at the desk, the camera over here for looking at the Glowforge, the video input from the microscope, capturing the output of the oscilloscope, and obviously desktop and all that other stuff, and doesn't seem to break a sweat. So I'm really impressed with that particular piece of hardware. Then I fed the multi-view from OBS onto this touchscreen monitor here, so I can kind of switch video sources that way or use the Stream Deck. Works out pretty well. I don't do nearly as much streaming as I should do, considering I'm all set up for it. Moving on, my main computer is this iMac over here. It's getting a little bit old, but I'm waiting for some exciting new shiny M2 thing to come out that will replace it eventually. But for now, it does the job. So let's move along past the vinyl cutter over to the 3D printers. I started off with the Lulzbot Mini some years ago, and I still really like this machine, although it's now been joined by a Prusa Mini. So currently 2 mini 3D printers, and at some point when the giant Prusa comes out, I'm going to try to find a way to squeeze that into this room. Moving on from there, we'll briefly go past the BenEater 6502 breadboard computer, which I mounted in this shadow box. I have a video about how I made the hole in the box using a Shaper Origin so that I could put a switch in there. It was kind of a fun little side project to learn the origin. And then we come to storage area here. I do intend to put a back on this thing at some point so that you don't see this mess from this side. But I thought it might be cool to either make it out of whiteboard material or maybe do something with LED lights or something. I don't know. Another project for another day. Coming along here, we have a lot of these little bins, many of which are even labeled. So ideally, I could find the things that I'm looking for and a little bit of room to grow there. Below the bins is what was intended to be the ultimate charging shelf to solve the problem of having all kinds of little batteries and things and constantly needing to dig out the charger. I thought it would be nice if I had a shelf that long, I could just put all the chargers out there permanently and never have to worry about that problem again. Of course, it's grown a little bit of clutter that's not specifically chargers, but that'll happen. Then there's the stuff that goes on pegboard, because no workshop's complete without pegboard. And then, of course, this top here, I found that every time I wanted to do a Raspberry Pi project, I would have to go find a screen and a keyboard and maybe a mouse and power supply, dig out the Raspberry Pi, make space to put it somewhere and hook it all up, and then ideally put it away when I'm done with it. So having this thing permanently here means that if I do need to do something that involves a Raspberry Pi, I can just walk over here and do it. I also mounted this ceiling camera arm here so that I can do videos of this space if I'm unboxing something or doing a project over here and want to record that, which comes in pretty handy. Wait a minute, I left out the best for last. There's my LED matrix sign. That is one of my favorite projects that I ever made. I came up with the idea, I designed it, I built it, I installed it, I wrote the software for it. I did it all myself and I'm very proud of it. And it currently displays the time. So I don't really know what to do with this display now that I have it, but it's there. And as I think of more things to add to it, I will think of more things to add to it. I've been meaning to make a longer video where I explain the whole project and give people the plans and code if you want to make your own. I haven't gotten around to it yet because it's going to take me a long time to put together. But I do think I have a shorter one on my channel somewhere about doing this literature clock thing. So you can go look for that if you want to see that one. I'll put a link in the description if I remember. And with that, we are done. So that's the Lab Tour 2023 edition. And I'm going to shut off the video and go do a project. See you in the next one. Bye.